If wealth had a sound, Andrew Sterling's life would have been a full orchestra, loud, boastful, and impossible to ignore. The world called him the deal maker of the century, the man who turned dirt into diamonds, the American Pharaoh. He loved every nickname. In fact, he believed them. He moved like a man whose shadow held more power than ordinary men's entire families. His voice could change a nation's stock market. His signature could destabilize a currency. Andrew Sterling didn't walk into a room. He arrived, as if the air had no choice but to make space. He was the kind of man who built empires not with patience but with pressure. Not with mercy but with money. Not with wisdom but with willpower. But deep beneath all that success was something dark, unbalanced, and dangerous. Arrogance. A kind so deep it became part of his bloodstream. He believed there was no force on earth he couldn't bully or buy. Not governments. Not markets. Not people. Not even destiny. But destiny doesn't like to be challenged. And Andrew Sterling would discover, painfully, that there are realms money cannot enter, boundaries money cannot touch, and powers money cannot mock. His downfall began the day he stepped foot onto African soil. Not as a guest. Not as a partner. But as a king who believed the world owed him allegiance. He was wrong. And the consequences were waiting for him like a storm hiding behind a peaceful sky. At the heart of the chaos was a land, Ajoikan, a small coastal Nigerian community surrounded by mangroves, ancestral trees, and whispers of old spirits. For generations the land had been untouched, protected, watered. The villagers said the soil carried the breath of the ancestors. Geologists said it carried something else. Rare earth minerals worth over $400 billion. The kind of minerals that powered satellites, nuclear technologies, supercomputers, and advanced weapon systems. The kind of minerals wars were fought over. 3 countries wanted access. 5 corporations wanted dominance. But Sterling Global Holdings wanted ownership. If Andrew secured rights to Ajoikan's minerals, his company would become a global monopoly. He would become, not a billionaire, but a legend. It was more than business. It was immortality. The Nigerian government offered proposals. Various corporations sent delegations. Everyone tried to negotiate respectfully with the village council. Everyone except Andrew. He believed negotiation was for the weak. Why talk, he said, when you can buy? Still, before any corporation could touch the land, the village required a traditional blessing. A cleansing ritual conducted by Dibia Okeke, the most respected spiritualist in the entire region. The ritual was non-negotiable. It wasn't about religion. It wasn't about superstition. It was about respect for the land. Every other corporation complied. But when Andrew heard the requirement, he laughed so hard his assistants thought he was choking. A witch doctor, he said. This is the century of artificial intelligence, not animal sacrifices. His Nigerian advisors begged him. Sir, this is not something you mock. Even governors come to him. Please honor the tradition. But Andrew only cared about control. Fine, he said. I'll attend. But I won't participate in anything ridiculous. He had no idea he had already signed the beginning of his downfall. The day of the ceremony arrived. The villagers gathered under the massive Irako tree, a spiritual landmark older than the village itself. Children whispered. Elders hummed. The air carried a stillness that felt ancient. Then he appeared. Dibia Okeke. He walked slowly, each step deliberate, each breath steady. His long white beard moved softly in the wind. His staff, carved with symbols shaped like thunder and water, tapped lightly against the earth. Okeke wasn't just a spiritualist. He was a custodian of centuries. A doorway between living and ancestral realms. A man whose silence said more than 1,000 speeches. But Andrew Sterling saw none of this. He saw an old man in beads and chalk. And he smirked. As Okeke approached with the ceremonial calabash, full of water purified through sacred rites, he raised it toward Andrew. It is time, Okeke said. Bow your head so the land may accept you. Andrew frowned dramatically. No, he said. Loudly. Rudely. Old man, don't drop anything on me. My suit costs more than this whole village. A wave of shock swept across the crowd. Elders gasped. Mothers covered their children's ears. Youths exchanged looks of disbelief. But Okeke only stared at Andrew, not with anger, but with disappointment. You have come to a land whose ways you do not understand, Okeke said quietly. And you choose dishonor. Andrew clapped sarcastically. What a performance. Do you rehearse these lines? Even his own security guards lowered their eyes in shame. Okeke lifted his staff. The wind suddenly shifted. Birds scattered. Leaves trembled. The air thickened like a gathering storm. 3 days, Okeke said calmly. In 3 days your empire will crumble. Not by my hand, but by the weight of your own pride. The villagers murmured. Andrew laughed loudly. Save the threats, old man. I control markets bigger than your entire country. Let's talk real business. But Okeke only walked away. He had delivered the message. And destiny had begun its countdown. Andrew returned to his Lagos penthouse that night, confident he had secured victory. He poured himself a glass of expensive scotch and toasted himself in the mirror. To winning, he said. But at 3:17 am? His phone rang. He answered angrily. This better be important. Sir, his CO stuttered, voice shaking, we've been hacked. Andrew sat up straight. What do you mean hacked? Our servers are military grade. Not anymore. Someone breached the Sterling Tech defense system. Classified prototypes have been leaked. The U.S. Department of Defense is demanding answers immediately. Andrew felt something he hadn't felt in years. Fear. He jumped out of bed, pacing. Shut down everything. Call the cybersecurity team. We did, sir. They said the infiltration was too coordinated. Too perfect. It looks like an inside job. Before Andrew could respond, 3 more calls came in. The German government. The Japanese security agency. Interpol. By sunrise, 23 international investigations were opened. 17 contracts frozen. Stock dropped by 14% in 3 hours. Reporters broadcast breaking news across major networks. Sterling Global under international scrutiny, major security breach. Andrew slammed his fist against the wall. This is sabotage. Someone is targeting me. But deep inside his mind, a small whisper echoed. Day 1. Day 2 did not begin with sunlight. It began with a storm of phone calls. Andrew Sterling woke up in a sweat, feeling as if his entire bed had been placed inside a blender. His phone vibrated endlessly, emails, alerts, urgent messages from his executive board. He checked the first message, then the second, then the 10th, and each one carried a punch heavier than the last. Sir, his CFO said through a shaky video call, JP Morgan and Barclays have withdrawn all credit lines. They're terminating our agreements immediately. What? That's billions in liquidity. Yes, sir. And there's more. Goldman Sachs is requesting a government investigation into Sterling Global's financial records. Andrew froze. His heart pounded loudly, drowning out every sound around him. We didn't falsify anything. Our books are clean. I know, sir. But someone submitted forged documents to multiple agencies. The falsified numbers look authentic. Too authentic. Andrew staggered backward. This is impossible. But the blows kept coming. His head of public relations called next. Sir. CNN, Al Jazeera, BBC, they're all running the same story. Sterling Global accused of financial manipulation. The media is eating it up. Our reputation has plunged overnight. Andrew clenched his jaw. Where is the leak coming from? Who is behind this? We don't know, she whispered. But it's coordinated. Whoever is doing this, they know your weaknesses. They know where to hit without missing. Andrew swallowed hard. His company stock dropped 29% by noon. Reporters gathered outside his office building, swarming like vultures, shouting questions that stabbed like daggers. Mr. Sterling, are you being indicted? Is Sterling Global collapsing? Is it true you falsified international contracts? Why are governments distancing themselves from you? But the moment that broke him happened during an emergency meeting with his board. His directors, people who once bowed whenever he walked into a room, now avoided his gaze. We have no choice, the chairman said. The investors want to protect the company. Protect the company from what? Andrew snapped. From you. A cold silence filled the room. Andrew felt the ground shift beneath his feet. We're initiating a vote, the chairman continued. A vote to temporarily suspend your executive powers until the investigations are resolved. Andrew slammed the table. You can't remove me. I built this company with my bare hands. The chairman nodded sadly. And that may be the reason it is falling apart. Andrew shook with anger. You're all making a mistake. But the vote was unanimous. He was out. Temporarily, but out. And just when he thought the day couldn't get worse, his Nigerian advisors called. Sir, the people of Ajaoikan have withdrawn their cooperation. They said you disrespected the land during the ceremony. Andrew went pale. What does that have to do with my business collapsing? The advisor hesitated. Sir, in this land what you mock may mock you back. Andrew felt a chill sweep through him. He remembered the old man under the iroko tree. His calm eyes. His steady voice. 3 days. Andrew's throat tightened. He tried to push the thought away. But destiny doesn't leave quietly. That night Andrew could not sleep. He tossed left and right, sweat breaking across his forehead. The air conditioning was on full blast, yet he felt hot, as if something unseen was standing near his bed, breathing lightly on his neck. He sat up, restless, and poured himself another drink. He told himself everything was coincidence. Logistics. Human sabotage. Corporate warfare. But the silence of the penthouse felt strange. Uncomfortable. Oppressive. He paced the room. Every shadow looked darker than usual. Every sound felt amplified. Every corner seemed to be watching him. Then, bang. The lights flickered. The glass in his hands shattered. Thunder roared outside though the sky had been clear minutes ago. Andrew jolted in fear. What is happening? The television, one he hadn't touched, turned on by itself. News headlines flashed across the screen. Sterling global share price freefall continues. Federal agents raid Sterling subsidiary office. European Union suspends Sterling trade licenses. He watched helplessly as new disasters updated every 5 seconds. His empire was collapsing in real time. And he felt something he had never felt before. Small. Powerless. Haunted. For the first time, the king of global markets felt like a helpless pawn. And somewhere deep within him, a whisper returned. Day 2. But he didn't want to believe it. Not yet. Day 3 began not with a phone call, but with a loud knock. More like a hammering. Bam, bam, bam. Open up. Federal agents. Andrew froze. No, not like this. He opened the door, trembling. A group of government agents barged in, badges flashing. Mr. Andrew Sterling, you are under federal investigation for international fraud, insider trading, data manipulation, and security violations. Andrew shook his head desperately. I didn't do any of that. I'm being targeted. I'm being framed. Sir, one agent said coldly, you'll have time to explain. They placed him in handcuffs. The man who once sat with presidents was now being escorted like a criminal. As he was driven away, reporters swarmed the car. Mr. Sterling, did you falsify documents? Is Sterling Global bankrupt? Do you have anything to say? Andrew shut his eyes. I lost everything, he whispered. His reputation, his company, his wealth, his power, everything. And then, as he sat alone in the interrogation room, lights buzzing, walls cold and expressionless, he remembered the old man, the iroko tree, the prophecy. 3 days. A tremor ran through him. It wasn't magic. It was his arrogance, his disrespect, his pride. Everything he had done had returned to judge him. He placed his head in his hands and broke down, for the first time in his adult life. After hours of questioning, Andrew was released temporarily pending further investigation. He walked out of the building like a ghost, broken, exhausted, drained of every trace of pride. His private jet was seized. His accounts frozen. His penthouse surrounded by paparazzi. He had nowhere else to go. Except one place. Nigeria. Ajeoikan. The village he mocked. The land he insulted. The man he disrespected. He boarded a commercial flight, something he hadn't done in nearly 20 years. And when he arrived in Lagos, there were no bodyguards, no assistants, no drivers waiting for him. He took a small taxi to the village. When he reached Ajeoikan, children pointed. Women whispered. Elders murmured. The once mighty billionaire walked through the dusty path barefoot, his expensive suit wrinkled and dirty, his face unshaven. The villagers gathered, watching him silently. And then he saw the shrine. And saw Dibia Okeke seated outside, calmly carving wood. Andrew fell to his knees. Please, he whispered, voice trembling. Please forgive me. He bowed so low his forehead touched the earth. I mocked you. I mocked your culture. I disrespected your land. And now, I have paid the price. Okeke raised his eyes and observed him quietly. At last, the collapse had birthed humility. Andrew's forehead pressed against the red earth of Ajeoikan. For the first time in decades he wasn't giving orders. He wasn't negotiating. He wasn't calculating. He was begging. The villagers watched in stunned silence. Just 3 days ago the world saw him as a titan. Now he was dust. A humbled shadow of the man who once mocked everything he didn't understand. Slowly, deliberately, Dibio Okeke rose to his feet. His staff tapped the ground once. The sound echoed through the village like thunder disguised inside a whisper. "You have returned," Okeke said quietly. His voice was neither angry nor pleased, just ancient. Andrew lifted his red, dusty face. "I lost everything," he said. "My company, my name, the world I built fell in 72 hours. I mocked your ceremony. I disrespected you. Please, please help me." Okeke looked into his eyes, not at the billionaire, not at the broken man, but at the spirit behind the flesh. "What brought you here is not my wrath," the old man said. "It is the weight of your own actions." Andrew swallowed hard. I know that now. But I want to make things right." Okeke stepped closer. "Do you?" "Yes," Andrew said desperately. "Tell me what to do." The old man lifted his staff again. "The land you disrespected must judge you. If you wish for restoration, not of wealth but of balance, you must walk its path." Andrew nodded repeatedly. "Anything. I'll do anything." But Okeke wasn't done. "You must face 3 tests," he said. "Not of power, but of spirit." A murmur ran through the crowd. 3 tests. Andrew repeated nervously. "What kind of tests?" Okeke turned away. "The kind you cannot pass with money." Okeke led Andrew to the village stream, a long winding path down rocky terrain. The sun was hot, burning through his wrinkled designer shirt. At the bank of the stream stood a huge clay pot, so large it required 2 adult men to lift. "That pot," Okeke said, "must be brought to the top of the hill." Andrew stared in disbelief. It's impossible." "Many things are impossible for a man who believes he is above others," Okeke replied. Andrew placed his hands on the pot. It was heavier than anything he had ever touched. His muscles trembled instantly. The villagers watched silently. He lifted. He stumbled. He fell. He lifted again. Arms shaking. Spine screaming. Breath shortening. He fell again. Dust covered his face and clothes. Blood seeped from a scrape on his arm. His body felt like it was breaking apart. And still, he lifted the pot again. Children whispered, "Is that not the proud man from the ceremony? See how the mighty carry burdens." But something changed this time. Andrew didn't lift the pot like a man proving strength. He lifted it like a man seeking forgiveness. He rose slowly, step by painful step, until he reached the top of the hill. He dropped the pot and collapsed beside it, wheezing, shaking, drenched in sweat. Okeke appeared moments later. "You have carried what you once mocked," the old man said. "Today, humility has entered your bones." When Andrew regained strength, Okeke took him to the ancestral circle, where flames burned in a stone pit surrounded by carved masks. Okeke handed him a palm-sized wooden bowl. "Confess into this bowl the truth you have never told anyone. Speak the words that have poisoned your life." Andrew hesitated. This was harder than lifting any pot. He stepped toward the flames. His voice trembled. I used to think I was untouchable," he began. "I thought kindness was weakness. I destroyed competitors without mercy. I disrespected people who didn't deserve it. I worshipped money. I worshipped power. I believed I was superior." His voice cracked. Tears streamed down his face. "I hurt people, not with fists but with arrogance. And I didn't care. I only cared about winning." He looked up at Okeke. "I don't want to be that man anymore." Okeke nodded. "Place the bowl into the fire." Andrew swallowed and dropped the bowl into the flames. It cracked. It blackened. It turned to ash. Okeke touched his shoulder. "The truth you admit is the burden you release." The final test took place under the Irako tree, the same place Andrew had mocked the ceremony. Okeke handed Andrew a small pouch, empty and weightless. "This pouch," Okeke said, "represents everything you once chased." Andrew looked confused. "It's empty." "That is the lesson," Okeke replied. "You filled your life with wealth but starved your soul. Today you must fill this pouch again, but not with gold." He pointed to the villagers around them. "You have one day. Help them. Serve them. Feed them. Carry for them. Listen to them. And whatever blessing they give you, not money but gratitude, prayer, kindness, place it into this pouch." Andrew blinked. "How do I place intangible things inside it?" Okeke smiled. "You will understand." And so, for the first time in his life, Andrew Sterling became a servant. He fetched water for the elderly. He repaired fishing nets with the men. He peeled cassava with the women. He told stories to the children. He apologized to those he insulted. He laughed. He cried. He listened. And every time someone blessed him, "Thank you. God bless you. You have changed. You are welcome here." Andrew pressed the pouch against his heart, and somehow, it became heavier, not with material things, but with meaning. By sunset the pouch felt full. He returned to Okeke and placed it at his feet. The old man lifted it, waited, and nodded. "You have learned what empires cannot teach." Okeke led Andrew once more to the Irako tree. Night had fallen. The moon hovered above them like a watchful ancestor. "The land has seen your transformation," Okeke said. "You came here arrogant. You leave humbled." Andrew bowed deeply. "Am I forgiven?" Okeke placed a hand over his heart. "The land forgives. But restoration does not always mean returning to what you lost. Sometimes, it means receiving what you truly need." "What do I need?" Andrew whispered. "Yourself," Okeke said. "The version of you that was buried beneath pride." He handed Andrew a small ebony carving, the same one from the earlier version of your story, now fully expanded in meaning. "This will remind you of who you became, not who you were." Andrew accepted it with trembling hands. Tears fell freely down his cheeks. Andrew left Ajeoikan a changed man. Not with money. Not with power. But with clarity. He no longer ran from humility. He embraced it. He didn't return to America as a billionaire. He returned as a man. A man who understood that the world he built collapsed not because of magic, but because arrogance is the true curse. When Andrew stepped off the plane in New York, he expected to feel shame burning through him like fire. But instead, he felt peace. The kind of peace that came not from winning, but from letting go. Gone were the paparazzi that used to follow him. Gone were the private security guards. Gone were the limousines waiting at the tarmac. He walked through the airport like an ordinary man, luggage in hand, no one recognizing him. For the first time in his life, anonymity felt like freedom. When he reached his penthouse, he found it sealed, taped by government agents. Property seized. Assets locked. Everything he once believed defined him had been taken. And yet, he did not panic. He did not rage. He breathed. Because in Ajeoikan, he had learned something important. A man with nothing is a man ready to begin. He rented a small apartment in Queens, nothing fancy, just a simple space with peeling paint and creaky floors. And strangely, he loved it. He cooked his own meals. He washed his own clothes. He walked to the nearest grocery store. He learned to say good morning to neighbors. People who had once envied him would never understand. Losing everything had given him back himself. Meanwhile, the world that used to worship Andrew Sterling continued spinning without him. Sterling Global Holdings, his empire, was spiraling. More hacks. More leaks. More scandals. Every day new headlines appeared. Sterling Global collapse continues. Board issues emergency statement. Analysts predict bankruptcy within months. Former executives blame Andrew Sterling for angering powerful enemies. Investigations find no evidence of fraud, but too late to save reputation. Andrew watched all this from a small TV in his apartment. The same TV he bought from a second-hand store. And surprisingly, he felt no desire for revenge. No desire to return and prove he was right. No desire to reclaim the throne he once sat on. Instead, he simply whispered, "May they learn what I learned." Weeks passed. Andrew didn't seek new wealth. He sought new meaning. He reached out to Nigerians he had met during his contract negotiations. He apologized to many. He offered to help where he could, not as a businessman, but as a human being. He used his savings to support young African entrepreneurs. He invested in small agricultural startups. He funded a literacy program for rural communities. He partnered with hospitals to sponsor medical supplies. This time, he asked for nothing in return. Word spread slowly. People whispered, "Is that not the same billionaire who once ruled the markets?" He is not the same man anymore. He has changed. Andrew didn't care about the rumors. He was too busy rebuilding the world inside him. 3 months later, Andrew received a letter. No envelope. No return address. Just a folded sheet placed mysteriously outside his apartment door. When he opened it, he froze. The letter read, "The collapse is done. The lesson is learned. What remains is choice. Return to the place where the land first spoke to you." It was signed. Oh, for Okeke. Andrew felt something stir in his chest. A calling. A pull. He booked a flight back to Nigeria. Not as a billionaire, not as a negotiator, but as a seeker of truth. When he returned to Ajeoikan, The villagers gathered around him again, but this time with smiles, warmth, and drums beating softly in celebration. Okeke sat beneath the Irako tree as calm as ever, waiting for him. "I knew you would return," the old man said. Andrew bowed. "I don't understand. Why did you send me the letter?" "Because your story is not finished," Okeke replied. He motioned for Andrew to sit. "The land judged you, yes, and it humbled you. But now, it wishes to bless you." Andrew blinked. "Bless me? After everything?" Okeke nodded. "You were not destroyed. You were rebuilt." He handed Andrew a sealed leather scroll. "Open it," Okeke said. Inside were documents naming Andrew as the honorary chief advisor for a newly formed African Innovation Cooperative, a multinational partnership dedicated to sustainable development, funded by governments, companies, and philanthropists. All inspired by Andrew's recent work helping rural communities. Andrew stared in disbelief. "But I don't deserve this." "No man deserves blessings," Okeke said. "They are not rewards, they are responsibilities." Andrew's voice shook. "I thought I had lost my purpose." "You had lost your direction," Okeke corrected. "Purpose cannot be taken. It can only be forgotten." Andrew nodded slowly. For the first time, things made sense. That night, as Andrew prepared to leave the village again, he walked back to the Irako tree one last time. The moon glowed silver. The air was cool. Crickets sang. And the ancestors felt close. He touched the bark gently. "Thank you," he whispered. At that moment, a wind moved through the tree, soft, warm, and strangely familiar. It circled him gently like a hand on his shoulder. He closed his eyes. He could almost hear a voice. Not Okeke's. Not his own. Something older. Something deeper. Something that said, "Walk with humility and the world will open its doors. Walk with arrogance and even the doors you build will close before you." Andrew let the wind pass through him. And with it, the last remnants of the man he used to be finally faded away. Andrew Sterling did not return to being a billionaire. He became something far more valuable. A teacher. A philanthropist. A bridge between continents. A man people respected, not because of wealth but because of character. His new organization helped build schools from Kenya to Ghana. It funded clean water projects. It provided scholarships. It launched women's empowerment programs. It restored forests. It preserved endangered wildlife. And years later, when reporters asked, "Do you regret losing the empire you built?" Andrew always answered the same way. "No. I regret the man I was when I built it." His story spread across Africa as a modern folktale. Parents told their children, "Do not mock what you do not understand. Do not disrespect the land that hosts you. Do not let pride lead you where destiny cannot save you." And in the village of Ajeoikan, the Irako tree still stands. Dibia Okeke still sits beneath it. And whenever the wind rustles the leaves, the villagers swear they can hear the spirits whispering. Pride builds towers. Wisdom builds bridges. And a man who learns humility has learned everything.